Hi, welcome to this 5-part series on nutrition. In video number 1, we did the 10 most common myths in the nutrition industry or fitness industry. Video number 2, we did protein. Video number 3, we did fat. And video number 4, we finished off with carbohydrates. And in this video, we're going to teach you how to put it all together. Okay, so now you want to take your health to the next level, or go on a diet, lose weight, improve cholesterol, blood pressure, the list goes on and on. So how do you put it all together? Well, there's 2 ways in my mind, and it's just a guideline for you to start with. Anybody who has told you or that you've read that there's a perfect diet out there is selling you something. And they're selling you something that's not going to work in the long run. You know, it's like a client who comes into me and they'll show me a picture of a celebrity or an athlete and they'll talk about their diet. And look, there's basic guidelines that hold true, but every body is totally different. So the diet that's going to work for you may not work for your best friend or your uncle or your aunt, husband, so on and so forth. Okay? And the diet that you start on is never the diet that you end up on. And let me give you one example to make this user-friendly. If I work with somebody who is a really heavy, body weight heavy, and really bad, or I call them heavy diabetics, meaning their blood sugars are a mess, their insulin sensitivity is really ruined from years and years of bad food choices and inactivity, most times taking the glucose away from that person, i.e. carbohydrates, is a great idea for most people. Okay, and we'll see the triglycerides and the blood pressure and the body weight and fasted glucose, they'll all trend in the right direction. Now, in a year, 2 years, however long it takes us to get that person out of that situation, once they're healthy and they're athletic and they've built a significant amount of muscle and their insulin sensitivity is improved, no longer do they need to stay on this low carbohydrate, I call it the low carbohydrate island, that got them out of the mess, because now they're healthy and they're muscular, and in fact that very diet protocol that I suggested for them in the beginning would actually be detrimental as they improve. And this is going to be true to everyone, whether it's weight loss, cholesterol improvements, blood pressure improvements, you name it. The diet that you start on, generally speaking, for people that stay fit and healthy, is not what they stay on. Okay, so where you start is not where you end. And there has to be adjustments along that journey, whether it's somebody preparing for a bodybuilding fitness competition or a calendar or a model, or somebody that's just trying to improve their health. So there's 2 things that you want to do. First off, you want to look at your body and what your body fat percentage is. And you want to kind of get a baseline. It doesn't have to be overly fanatical, but you want to take a snapshot of yourself. You can have your body fat checked, but we can pretty much look in the mirror and see whether things are really in a bad spot. And then what you would try to estimate, and you can hire someone to do this, or you can do it yourself, and there's calculators and these things, and you'll never figure it out exactly, but you want to figure out what your ideal body weight is. Now, if this can be a little misleading, because you can look on certain things online and the weight, like if I looked at myself, they want me to be at 160 pounds. Right now I stand in front of you at 194. If I was 160 pounds, I would look like I was really, really ill and at the end of my life. So we have to account for athleticism, muscle mass, but you can look and try to either work with someone and we get general guidelines, or you can do this yourself. So you want to see what your ideal healthy body weight is. It's not something that you think, or maybe you were when you were, 17 years old and now you're 47 years old or 30 or 60 years old, because you have to account for, especially with women, bone density and muscle mass and all these things. So you want to try to identify what a healthy, maintainable body weight would be. And this is never talked about. And you heard it here first at lynchfit.com. You have to get your blood work done. I call it the river of life. So a good comprehensive blood panel that checks for hormone levels, obviously obvious things like cholesterol and triglycerides and getting your blood pressure, but also checking for some deficiencies in vitamins and minerals. That's really going to tell you where your body is from a health standpoint and where you may be lacking. And also a very valid thing or important thing that people want to check is thyroid function. You could be exercising all day long and eating a pretty healthy diet, and you'll lose weight, but the parking brake will be on, so to speak, because if you have a sluggish thyroid, whether it's from too little calories, it's called hibernation syndrome, or just an autoimmune system disease like Graves' disease or something like this, they really can slow your fat loss. And also low testosterone levels is a major concern. So to be healthy, to lose weight, to build muscle mass and stay fit and looking good and having a ton of energy, because you can look thin and feel like shit, you have to have, one, know where you want to go, healthy body weight, and that needs to be established. And a real huge thing that I have all my clients do, and some, they ignore the recommendation, but most will listen to me. You got to get that blood work done. If you start there, you're stacking the cards way in your favor to lose weight and keep it off indefinitely. Okay, step number 2 is going to be creating a baseline and finding out where you're at this current spot. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this. Whether you want to lose weight, because most people want to lose weight or lose some body fat, but some people want to build muscle and put on weight. And again, that's a good problem to have. Most people don't have that problem, but that is a concern for people that are athletic or want to be bulked up. I have one client I'm working with right now. He's in his mid-30s and he's going to do some TV work and he wants to put on muscle. So we're increasing his calories. But again, 95% of the people are going to want to lose weight. So how do you find the baseline? There's 2 ways you can do this. And we've all heard step number 1. And look, if you're in a real health crisis or you're extremely A-type personality, then step 1 would be okay to do, or option 1. And that's going to be for you to do a 5 to 7 day food journal. And that's going to be, you can just, a little book or something like that. And it's going to be 5 days of every single thing that you put in your mouth other than plain water. Okay, so if you have coffee and there's sugar in there, or cream, or a snack and some pretzels or healthy stuff, anything you put protein, powders, anything that you put in your mouth, you have to log it in. And what you do is at the end of the day, you would figure out how many calories overall you're taking in, and then you do this over 5 to 7 days, and you get an average of what you're taking in for a whole week. Because some days you could be at 3,200 calories, and then some days you could be at 2,750, and you'll never be exact unless you're somebody who's following an exact program. But for most people, they're not doing that. So you can do that. Now, the problem with this is it's very labor intensive. I personally have never done that in my life, but there are people out there that will be willing to do that, or are in a health crisis and they need to do that, at least in the beginning, to see where they're at. An easier approach for people is going to be watch video 1, 2, and 3. Identify what healthy protein, fats, and carbohydrates should look like. And then be honest with yourself, just look at your diet, and you can jot everything down, but you don't have to be a mathematician and figure out how many protein, fats, and calories and grams of carbohydrates and all that, because that's very laborious. And most people will give up about day 2 and they'll forget the book or whatever it is. But write everything down and then just take a look and say, okay, what are the foods that I need to extract from what I'm eating on a regular basis? And you will find for a lot of people, there's some really bad stuff in there. And a lot of times people are eating things or adding things to their food, whether it's dressings or sauces. They didn't realize how many grams of fat and sugar are actually in these foods. And just taking them out in themselves will make radical, tremendous, life-altering changes. Okay, because whether you want to build muscle or lose fat, the rules don't change. And here's what the rules are. You need to be in a deficit of around 250 to 300 calories to start the weight loss process. And you need about a surplus of about 400 to 500 for muscle gain. Okay, and this is achieved very easily, especially for the weight loss. If you think about it, 300 calories in the beginning could be 150 less calories per day going in your mouth, and 150 calories burned off through exercise, which is a very small amount. So right there, you would actually start the weight loss process. And when you try to speed things up too fast, all you end up doing is losing water retention, which inherently is not a bad thing from a health standpoint, but it's only usually the first week or two. And then you run the risk of losing precious muscle mass, which is the key ingredient to having a supercharged metabolism. And you can also lose things like connective tissue and bone mass if you're too aggressive in your weight loss or cutting your calories. So a lot of times you have people that may be eating, for instance, 3,500 calories, and then they get bad news from their doctor, or they just can't stand the way they look and feel anymore, and then they go all the way down to like 1,800 calories, but they exercise, and if the exercise is well formulated, then they could be burning another 400 to 600 calories. Do the math. These people are literally starving themselves to death, and they will lose weight, but within a few weeks, they'll either be ravenously hungry, and they'll just overfeed and put a lot of body fat back on, or they'll suppress their thyroid gland, or they'll be depressed. They might not be able to sleep well. They might just be, I think the term now is hangry. We've all been there. So you want to start off with either that food log or identify the problematic foods, pull them out, and just by doing that, you will start the process of weight loss. And again, if you're somebody that's struggling to put on muscle, then you need to look at it and say, okay, where am I deficient? Do I need more carbohydrates? Do I need more protein? Oh my God, I didn't realize I'm only, taking in X amount of protein, and I need another 70 grams a day. And then you'll see that muscle start to come on. So you need to identify where you are and know where you want to go, and realize that the changes that need to be made are very small. And when you rush that process, it never, ever works out. Okay, step number 3 is gonna seem simple. You've heard it before, but let me tell you something. When you do it and you actually stick to it and you're mindful that you're doing it, it makes huge changes with no exercise and no diet change. And obviously you need to do those as well, and it's this: stop drinking your calories. Stop drinking your calories. Other than people that enjoy a healthy, quality protein drink, stop drinking your calories. So obviously there's other things than water, and green tea and coffee are perfectly fine because they're calorie free, and if caffeine is not an issue, then that's totally fine. But you really have to be mindful of what you put in there. Are you somebody who's dumping tons of heavy cream in your coffee, or putting a couple tablespoons of sugar, or no calorie sweeteners? The jury's out on that. I think that they're okay. If you're someone that finds that when you have no calorie sweeteners that it makes you crave more sugar, then it's probably a good idea to taper off those things. But for most people, if they're not abusing them, and it's a bridge to get them into a more healthy state than dumping tablespoons of sugar into their coffee, I'm all for it. But a lot of these drinks have hidden sugars in them. And a lot of the protein powders, that's why I said a good quality protein powder that's got no sugar added to it, are loaded with sugar. So I've worked with people before where they were soda drinkers, and just taking soda, just switching out soda and taking it out of their lifestyle has made them drop 40, 50 pounds, because liquid calories are so easy to consume. They spike our blood sugar, which makes our pancreas overproduce insulin. Okay, remember we talked about insulin. It's not a bad thing unless it's totally abused. And those sugary drinks definitely make your pancreas scream, and will totally, for 99% of us, will turn us into a diabetic later in life if we make it that far. So really look at where your calories are coming from. And obviously, if you're one of those people that want to gain muscle, then and you struggle to eat food, and again, this is a small population, then obviously higher calorie protein drinks, something like a protein powder with some natural peanut butter and maybe a piece of fruit blended in there, is going to actually, once or twice a day, is going to be beneficial for somebody struggling to put on weight. But for most people, losing body fat and or weight, eating most of your calories from real food and not getting them from liquid is a great strategy. Very simple, but highly overlooked. Okay, number 4 pains me to say, and it stinks, but because most of us like a nice alcoholic beverage, but you really want to cut alcohol out or limit it. And here's the reason why. Here's the good news though. It doesn't impact you as much once you've reached your goal. Let me explain. Alcohol makes you produce certain enzymes that inhibit fat mobilization. So alcohol doesn't inherently get you fat, despite what people have said alcohol makes you fat. No, it doesn't. Now, alcohol is somewhere in between fats and protein as far as calories go. Protein and carbs, like we discussed, 4 calories per gram. Fat, 9. Alcohol has 7. So it's somewhere in between, okay? Here's where alcohol becomes a problem. Like I said, it produces certain enzymes that can block fat burning. Okay, it doesn't get you fat, but it blocks fat burning. And some studies show it says in 24 to 48 hours, okay? It also too could potentially lower testosterone. And you know, when women say, oh, it's easy for my husband or my boyfriend to lose weight more than, or faster or easier than me, they're right. And it's because men, for the most part, have higher testosterone levels. And testosterone is a very important hormone for muscle building and fat mobilization. And women need it too. So excessive alcohol consumption, especially certain alcohols like beer because of the estrogenic effects of hops, but it's going to raise estrogen levels and it can potentially lower testosterone, and it just kind of beats the hell out of your liver and your muscles. So do you have to give up alcohol? No, because actually studies show that cultures that live the longest actually drink 1 to 2 drinks a day, and it actually can lower blood pressure, thin the blood. So there are benefits to alcohol, but while you're trying to burn body fat, it's a great idea to either abandon it or keep it to 1 to 2 times a week maximum. Now, here's the cool news. Once you get to where you want to be, you almost could drink it every single day. And I've seen this happen in myself a myriad of times, because listen to logic. It slows fat burning. But once you get to your ideal body fat percentage, you're really kind of in a maintenance mode. And as long as you don't get fat again, theoretically, you don't have to burn large amounts of body fat. So having a drink here or there or every night with your dinner, if that's something that you enjoy and it keeps your stress levels low and makes the world a better place, then it's not a problem. But on the road to burning body fat 1 to 2 times a week, especially the lower sugar varieties like tequila and vodka and dry wines are probably best, but you want to really limit that. And boys, men, even women, they want to put on muscle if they want to put it on, but most guys are more hungry for the big muscles. That can really dampen your testosterone. So you really want to limit those drinks until you get where you need to be, and then see how much you can have where you don't destroy your liver or do pole dancing in a party or something like that. But keep booze to a minimum. Okay, step number 5 is going to be identifying how many calories you need for whatever your goal is. Now, there's some trial and error with this, and to not drive yourself crazy, because I deal with this all the time, stop going on YouTube or reading somebody else's diet or what some celebrity is doing and trying to employ it in yourself, because it ultimately won't work. Because nutrition has to be tailored for you, and like I've mentioned before, it needs to change as your body changes. Now, remember, small incremental changes are what lead to the best results and the results that last with you. So how do you start? Okay, let's go from the high end. And this is going to be, again, for that small minority of people that want to put on muscle or want to put on weight. If somebody is really struggling to put on weight, they're super active, or they're doing a ton of training, then we can take the body weight and times it by 20 to 22 calories. Now, that's a lot of calories. So that's going to be really on the upper end. Maintenance, for people that are blessed to be in a maintenance, it's going to shake out somewhere between 14 to 16 per pound. And then on the low end, for weight loss, especially if somebody's been on a weight loss program for a while, they're going to do the low end is going to be 11 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. Now, I always tell people to leave bullets in the gun. Don't start all the way on the low end, because there's nowhere to go once you get to that level. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Imagine you have a gun and it's got 6 bullets in it. And you know that you've heard that somebody's going to come and break in your house. And unfortunately, this person comes in and breaks in your house. And you take your gun, and they have a gun too, and you shoot them first. And you get them with 1 bullet. There would make no sense, or it would make no sense for you to unload the other 5 bullets in that person. You would call the police and He would either be dead or he would get arrested and go to jail because he's a bad guy. Okay, but what you wouldn't do is unload the other 5 bullets. You would wait, maybe that person has somebody outside or 2 guys outside and they're coming too, so you would save the bullets for them as well. Same thing with nutrition, and I explain it like this to make it user-friendly. You don't want to start on the low, because people think, oh, 11 calories per pound, and they'll just do that. But once you hit a plateau, a little bit of a stall in your weight loss, which everyone does, and there's reasons for that, and I'm going to do a video just on plateau busting and why some of the reasons it happens, but generally speaking, we'll have to lower incrementally until that person gets to where they need to be, and it could be an increase in exercise or a little bit more of minor reductions in calories. So if you start all the way at the bottom and you hit a plateau, there's nowhere you're going to go other than a damaged metabolism, a suppressed thyroid and pituitary gland, and low hormones and low muscle mass. And now you'll have what they call a skinny fat body, where you look thin and clothes, but then when you take your clothes off and you're in bathing suit, you know, people are doing this, and so are you, because you've lost so much vital muscle mass. And that's when you get into the hanging skin and the dimpling and the cottage cheese, as they call it. So weight loss can be very unsightly when done wrong, but it can be very unhealthy, and we can run into lost bone mass, especially in women. So again, 20 to 22 calories for extreme muscle gain and activity. Maintenance somewhere around, you know, depending on the person and the age, is somewhere to 14 to 16, and then extreme and end state weight loss is going to be somewhere 12 to 11 calories, and that's per pound. And obviously, this gets a bit tricky if you're dealing with somebody with large amounts of body fat, because what is their ideal body weight? So you can see where it can become tricky. It's not rocket science. We're not opening people's brains, but it is a bit of a science. But these are general guidelines, and look, you have to play with it and you have to tweak it. And that's what every person that's ever been in shape has ever done. No one ever just said, hey, that's my diet, this is what I'm gonna eat, and this is what I'm gonna eat for the rest of my life. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So you could either, you know, get someone to do it for you that has knowledge and knows what they're doing, or you can kind of figure these out and play with them on your own until you hit that sweet spot. So that's a very important process, and just take some time. Okay, number 6 is gonna be the final one, and that's gonna be finding out the balance that you need for your body type, your activity level, health conditions, etc. So you're gonna get your baseline calories, and again, remember they're just a guide, and then we're gonna find out what the ratio should be. Now let's start at the top end again for somebody who's really active, strenuous job, really great metabolism, they wanna put on muscle. To starting point, it's only a starting point, usually around 50% carbohydrates, 30% proteins with about 20% fats. Then we go to most people. And most people are going to be, you know, in that midline. They're not totally obese or morbidly obese, and they're not heavy diabetics. And I think a great starting point that's ultra healthy, and I don't think anybody, unless they're selling a specific program, would argue on this, would be 33.3% across the board. Then that's going to be even proteins, carbs, and fats. And that's a great way to ensure that you have optimal hormone production, you don't have too many carbohydrates, too low protein, and it's a great starting point. And obviously each person is going to have to tweak these numbers for their goals, body type, etc. If you have somebody that has health conditions, then those numbers have to be tweaked even more. Like if somebody has a large amount of body weight to lose and they're type 2 diabetic, or they have a massive amount of insulin resistance going on. Obviously those carbohydrates, 33% might be too much for them, especially until they get into a more healthy setting. They might have to bring their carbohydrates down to 20%. And you know, another example would be somebody who doesn't oxidize or metabolize cholesterol well, or may have kidney conditions. Then 33% of protein may be too high for them. And obviously these are very extreme medical conditions, and you would have to have the supervision of a doctor and a nutritionist actually that deals with these very challenging diseases. But again, I don't think anybody that really knows nutrition would argue that a balance of those 3 macronutrients with tweaks here and there is going to be a great starting point. And you might feel you're the type of person that needs a little bit more protein, a little less carbohydrates, or vice versa. And the body is constantly changing. Hormones are constantly shifting. Body fat, as body fat comes down, beneficial hormones come up, and it's a journey. It's not a destination, and you will constantly be tweaking and trying to fine tune the diet and the training, because I've never met anybody in my 25 years, 26 years of doing this, I never met anybody that said, okay, Mike, enough. I look too hot. I'm too fast. I'm too strong. It doesn't happen. Fitness becomes a bit of a drug, where a lot of times people come in and they just say, hey, I just want to lose some weight, or I got elevated blood pressure. But once I see those abs coming in, or some of the veins, guys got like veins in their biceps, or they're throughout their jeans and they're getting compliments, they never ever turn around and be like, I don't want more of this stuff. I want to be too awesome. It doesn't happen. So again, these are guidelines, these are basic guidelines, but they are guidelines that I've been using for 25 years. They work, and obviously they're going to be specific to you, and as your body changes, they should change. And that, my friends, is the way to get in shape. It's not going to be taking all food groups, I call them the villains, removing food groups out and taking carbs out, and then protein's bad, and wiping your calories in half, and exercising 4 times a day, and wrapping yourself in I don't know, tin foil. It's these are extremes, and when you do extremes, you generally will end up with extreme issues down the road, and they may not show themselves for a while. But any of these things that you may have heard or read or done, realize that you're not alone. Anybody who's ever tried to lose weight, build muscle, get faster, stronger, has made mistakes, had injuries, have had setbacks, you name it. And the key is to find out what's the right road for you. And once you do that, the skies open up and the sun will come out for you for sure. And then it's just like, how long can I go? And you're just constantly trying to improve yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this 5-part series. If you have anything that you don't understand, I encourage you to go back and watch it again and really listen to what I'm saying. And hopefully some of these things ring true to you. And that's it. So I want to thank you again for watching this 5-part series, and have a great day and stay healthy.